Brooklyn bloodlines, Anthony the Wolf Sessa. Philly raised him, but Brooklyn learned quick what the name Anthony Sessa meant. They called him the Wolf, not 'cause he ran in a pack, but 'cause he hunted alone, quiet, patient, deadly. Back in the 90s, South Philly was already his playground. Guys twice his age would test him, try to brush him off like some kid with sharp shoes and sharper eyes. One night, some old-timer called him out in a corner bar, laughed right in his face. Sessa didn't argue. He didn't raise his voice. He just smiled, that cold, hungry smile, and walked out. By morning, the old man was gone, and nobody ever laughed at Sessa again. But Philly wasn't big enough to hold him. He made connections out west in Kansas City. That's where his path crossed with Christian Zintelli, the devil in silk. They weren't friends. Hell, they barely trusted each other. But respect? That was there. Flashback, a KC warehouse, rain beating down on tin like drums. Sessa standing in the dark with his collar turned up, Zintelli leaning against a car, lighting a cigarette. A third man paces, nervous, too many secrets in his pockets. Zintelli nods once, Sessa steps forward. The only sound after that was the storm outside. By dawn, the job was done, the money was split, and their names were stitched together in blood. Years later, when Zintelli started sniffing around Brooklyn, it wasn't long before Sessa showed up too. Different cities, same hunger. Brooklyn had power up for grabs, and Anthony Sessa wasn't the type to settle for scraps. Now he sits at the same tables as Goku D'Angelo and Nick Palermo, smoking cigars, playing it cool. But everyone feels it. The wolf ain't here to blend in. He's here to carve out his own piece, same way he always has. And Zintelli, that unfinished business from KC, still hangs between them like a blade. Anthony Sessa ain't driven by loyalty. He ain't chasing respect. He's a predator. And predators don't stop until they've taken the throat. Brooklyn Bloodlines, Season 2, coming soon.
Mons, what the fuck you doing in there, you prick?
Bambi's Twisted Tales, the Elves and the Shoemaker. The winter that broke Brooklyn's back rolled in like a shy thief. First a cold breeze, then a slap, then the kind of freeze that turns breath to smoke and hope to marble. Down on Mulberry, the lights were tired, the awnings sagging, and the old men outside the social club were bundled so deep they looked like laundry with opinions. And tucked in a corner near the laundromat, that ain't a laundromat, sat Salvatore Stitch Romano's shoemaker shop. Hand-painted sign, letters peeling like old paint on a church door, bell over the knob that coughed instead of rang. Stitch was bent like a question mark and twice as unsure. He had hands like busted ravioli, knuckles swollen from a lifetime of pulling thread through leather that fought back. Good man, straight shooter. You ask anybody. But the numbers didn't care that he was decent. The rent didn't care. The light meter didn't care. The world don't stop for nice guys. It trips them and robs them. He had one hide of leather left. One. Enough for a single pair of shoes. Maybe two if he cut the pattern tighter than a bookie on payday. He held it up to the dusty window, watched the gray streetlight glow through it like a dying candle, and sighed. "Carm," he called into the back, "if these don't sell, I'm taking my talents to the cardboard sandal business under the FDR." From the kitchen came Carmella's voice, warm, round, and sharp like a tomato with a razor in it. "Cut the leather, Sal. Pray to St. Crispin. and stop kvetchin'. You sound like a radiator with feelings." He smirked, kissed his fingers to the dusty shrine of St. Anthony over the register, everyone's favorite lost and found guy, and laid out the pattern. Cut, stack, breathe. His eyes burned. Midnight crept in and sat on his shoulders. "Domani," he muttered, and threw a rag over the bench. In the morning the shop smelled like polish, not poverty. On the bench sat a pair of shoes that made his heart stutter, sleek oxblood, cap-toe perfect, stitchin' tight as a drumline, leather singing like it remembered a better cow. Sal stared until his eyes watered. "Carmella." His voice knelt. She came out wiping her hands on an apron older than some saints, saw the shoes, crossed herself. "Madonna." "They made themselves," he said. "Don't be an idiot," she said. "St. Crispin's got a cousin." They put him in the window. The first passerby, a banker with a face like a tax form, stopped dead, came in and paid double without haggling. Sal wrapped the shoes with trembling hands. Carmella tucked the cash in the till like she was bedding down a newborn. That night they ate meat, real meat. Sal cried into his sausage and blamed the onions. So he did it again, cut the leather, placed it neat, went to bed. Dawn. Another pair, black and cool, a miracle you could wear. Again he sold them. Again he ate like he remembered how. Word got out the way word always does, through the mouths of old ladies and the ears of men pretending not to listen. By the end of the week, uptown broads were slumming it down Mulberry for Romano shoes. But a man don't take a miracle on credit without wondering who's holding the note. "Carm," he said, "I got ghosts working overtime or a rival with a sense of humor." Carmella looked at him over her espresso like he was cute and dumb. "We hide tonight," she said. "If it's angels, we say thank you. If it's thieves, I'm bringing the rolling pin." They waited behind burlap sacks that smelled like flour and sorrow. Midnight settled, and the bell over the door gave the tiniest jingle, like it was embarrassed. Then they saw 'em. Two little punks, thin, fast, naked as payday lies. Elves, if you want to get technical, but not the Santa kind. These two were alley cats with pointy ears. They climbed the bench like a fire escape, humming a filthy little tune in a language older than rent control, and turned leather into shoes with hands that blurred. Stitch, hammer, laugh. Stitch, hammer, whistle. They didn't steal a crumb, didn't knock a thing off the shelf, worked like they owed the night money. Dawn stained the windows pale. They vanished through the keyhole as sure as smoke back into a cigar. Sal let the breath out of his chest like he'd been holding it since the war. Carmella crossed herself again, then swatted Sal on the arm. "Don't you dare scare 'em off with your guilt," she whispered. "You thank the saints and you keep your shop clean." The next week, money walked in and kissed the register. The week after, it brought flowers. Every night the elves worked. Every morning the bench bloomed. But here's the thing about Carmella. Her heart was a room with the heat always on. "Sal," she said one dusk, "those little things are naked. It's December. Even pigeons got coats. I'm making 'em clothes." "You're gonna tailor for supernatural tiny nudists," he said. "I'm gonna be grateful," she said. "You should try it. Might look good on you." She sewed like a rumor spreads, fast, neat, and soon everybody's business. Tiny silk trousers, shirts with peppercorn buttons, vests with lining like a secret. Sal, warmed by her madness, made belts thin as linguine, and shoes so small he forgave God for irony. They left the outfits on the bench, turned down the lamp, and hid again. Midnight. The bell coughed. Two little engineers of mercy hopped up, saw the gifts, and went nuts. They dressed, they preened, they danced a jig on the workbench, a tap number that sounded like rain on a tin roof. They blew kisses, saluted St. Anthony's chipped ceramic nose, and slipped out the keyhole with style. They never came back. Business kept humming. Not the same lightning bolt each dawn, but a low, steady electric. Sal found his hands again, learned a thing. Miracles teach by shortcut. Work teaches by groove. He got proud of stitches he could sign his name with. Carmella swapped thin soup for basil that could stop a street fight. The shop got warm. Hope moved in and hung its coat. And because the world hates a good thing unguarded, in came trouble. You could hear Rizzo the renter 2 blocks before you saw him, heels clicking like a metronome for bad decisions. He ran the block the way toothaches run a mouth, constant, expensive, unavoidable. Slicked hair, suit that tried too hard, a smile that wrote checks his bodyguard cashed. He strolled into Sal's shop like he owned the air. "Romano," he sang, "look at you, commerce, pride. I remember when you were whining about the bill like a kettle without water. And now, silk on your wife, leather on your bench, money on your mind. This is good. I like a success story. It means I can raise the rent." Carmella's eyes went narrow enough to cut. "The lease is for a year." He made a face like leases were cute. "Leases are for people without vision. You've had help." His gaze slid to the bench, to the St. Anthony like he was insulted by miracles he didn't broker. "Friends who work nights." He smiled, all teeth, no soul. "Friends cost, and friends talk." Sal felt the old shy fear creep back like a draft. "We pay what we owe." "No, paisan," Rizzo said. "You pay what I say." He wagged a finger at Carmella's basil like it offended him. The city was restless again. Brooklyn never slept, never forgave. It just shifted its weight from one vendetta to the next. You could feel it in the pavement, the hum of secrets under the concrete, old grudges waiting to surface. Mikey the Hammer. Palermo wiped his hands on a rag, grease black on his knuckles. His name had been hammered into Brooklyn years ago, each swing another warning that still echoed down the block. Retirement? A bedtime story. In this city, the only retirement was 6 feet under. From Kansas City came Supreme, cigar clamped in his teeth, silence heavy as a loaded gun. He wasn't loud. He didn't need to be. When Supreme leaned forward, the whole room leaned back. Anthony Rizzo cut a different figure. Sharp suit, promoter's grin, the kind of man who could sell you a dream while someone else dug your grave. With Brady, K-Fam Keller in his corner, spittin' verses sharp enough to slice open truths. Rizzo moved between nightclubs and back rooms like he owned both. But bridges like his, they burned quick. And then there was Christian Zintelli. Kansas City sent him too, but he wasn't just another wise guy. They called him the devil in silk, smooth, charming, and dangerous in ways you didn't see until the door was locked and the smile dropped. He played the long game, building leverage brick by brick, blackmail and blood woven into his cuffs. People swore they saw death follow him into a room. Some said he was born cruel, others said he was born unlucky. But everybody agreed. Once Zintelli had you, you didn't wriggle free. At La Tavola Nera, Bambi Palermo lit her cigarette, storm in her eyes. She wasn't just Frankie's daughter, Nick's sister, Goku's goddaughter. She was her own weather system now. Kiss or cut, you never knew till it was too late. Nick Palermo leaned nearby, grin crooked, cigar spinning between his fingers. To Nick, family was scripture, loyalty the only prayer. He never hurried, never shouted. He smiled, and the smart ones knew that smile was the last thing you'd ever see. David Lopez, the Fed with 1 foot on the badge and 1 foot in the dirt, walked the line so thin it could slit a throat. Nobody knew where his loyalty lived. Maybe not even him. Caden Winters was the other side of that coin, cold as January, 3-piece suits cut sharper than a blade. They called him the Icebox. He was married to Emily Palermo, tied by blood to the family he swore to bury. That kind of tension didn't stay quiet forever. Emily Palermo Winters walked that tightrope daily. Bambi's sister, Nick's blood, Goku's kin in spirit. Married to the Fed, hunting her own, torn in ways only she could understand. She wanted peace, but peace don't grow in Brooklyn soil. And at the head of it all, Goku D'Angelo. Cigar smoke curling, scotch in hand, silence pressing down on everyone like judgment. He didn't need to say a word. The weight of him was enough. Brooklyn's heartbeat was pounding again, but this time it wasn't business as usual. The wheel wasn't turning. It was breaking loose, crashing downhill, dragging everyone with it. Mikey's hammer, Supreme's menace, Rizzo's silver tongue, Zintelli's silk and shadows, Bambi's storm, Nick's grin, Lopez's double life, Winter's ice, Emily's torn heart, and Goku's silence. Brooklyn Bloodlines, Season 2, same family, more blood, double the betrayal. Coming soon, to a back room near you. 2 weeks, new rent, or I let the laundromat expand. He patted the saint on the head and left like a bad smell, practicing charisma. That night, Sal's hands shook around the awl. The bench felt bigger, the leather thinner. The elves were gone. Of course they were gone. That's the rule. You thank the magic. You dress it. It bows, and it walks. It ain't your mother. It ain't your mule. It owes you nothing. Carmella put her hands on his. Hey, you got this. I'm scared, he said, because the truth unsours the milk in your chest. Me too, she said gently. Welcome to adulthood. He worked, he swore, he prayed once or twice and apologized to the saints for making him listen to the swears. He stitched until he could smell sunlight. When the morning came, the shoes were his. Not perfect, like the night hands made, but proud like a man who didn't fold. The customers noticed. Different, said one dowager with a hat like a funeral for modesty. Less showy, more Roman. Romano, Carmella corrected, smiling like a lioness with a law degree. Orders kept coming. Rizzo returned with his human furniture. Clocks ticking. Carmella poured him an espresso without asking, slid it across without blinking. You raise the rent, you raise the blood pressure of the entire block. People talk, priests talk. You know who they talk to. Your mother. Rizzo's smile faltered. Men like him, monsters in the street, altar boys at Thanksgiving. Don't bring Ma into this. I'll bring her lasagna and a story, Carmella said, sweet as arsenic. 2 weeks, fine. We'll pay. But you come in again with threats, I'll stitch your name into the parish bulletin under special intentions, needs grace and a personality. He left with less click in his heels. Now here's where the night got ideas. On the Friday before Rizzo's deadline, a man named Oleg came in, a slab of Siberia in a wool coat, hands like brick loaves, eyes like the part of the ocean that don't forgive. I need shoes, he rumbled, the way avalanches need gravity. Sal measured like a surgeon. Oleg watched the door. You're jumpy, Sal said, because sometimes you gotta laugh next to danger to keep your heart from chewing through your ribs. Oleg grunted. People follow me for the wrong reasons. I make enemies by breathing regular. He paid in cash and left with a promise to return. An hour later, the window shattered, rock through glass, note tied to it. Pay Rizzo or we expand with your teeth. Carmella swept the glass like it was confetti from a wedding they didn't attend. Fix the window, she said. Make Oleg's shoes. Don't let a thug make your stitches crooked. That night, Sal tried to work, but the fear snuck its hand into his thread and tied knots his fingers couldn't unknot. He put the awl down. I wish, he said to the empty air, I wish I could thank you two again. I wish I knew your names. Silence. A draft. The basil leaves trembled like they were eavesdropping. He laughed at himself and went in the back. Carmella was asleep in her chair, rosary in her lap, a warrior at peace. He kissed her hair, went back to the bench, and found, don't ask me how, a thimble that wasn't his. Pewter, old, engraved with the curl of a letter that could have been an F, or a treble clef, or a street drawn by a drunk. It was warm. He slid it on. It fit like a memory fits a scar. He worked. Lord, he worked. And something in the rhythm of the hammer and the hush of the awl began to feel like a second set of hands, not doing the job for him, but keeping his steady. Not magic, company. There's a difference. The leather gave. The thread sang. Dawn came without insult. Oleg's shoes shone like a threat with manners. The giant returned, tried 'em, nodded once. Good, he said. You listen. I listen. To the material, he said. Most men listen only to their fear. He paid, left. 15 minutes later, 3 of Rizzo's hobby horses walked in looking for trouble and found an Oleg instead. The sidewalk outside became a lesson about the cost of doing business with bullies. Sirens tried to remember how to be brave. Oleg glided away like a roomer with boots. 2 days later, Sunday after Mass, Rizzo's ma showed up with a nun in tow. She squeezed Carmella's cheeks until her ancestors felt it. I hear you make my boy pay attention, she said in the tone of a woman who's dragged a child out of a bar by his ear more than once. Good. He forgets he had a father who worked with his hands, not other people's money. She bought shoes, paid full price, kissed Sal on the forehead with the authority of the Pope, and left the nun to inspect St. Anthony for dust. Deadline afternoon, Rizzo slunk in alone, dignity dented. He cleared his throat. 2 weeks, you said. Look, there was a misunderstanding. The laundromat had ideas. Carmella slid an envelope across. We pay what we owe. You keep your boys off our door, and you keep your mother proud. Those are the terms. Rizzo took the envelope and the lifeline. Fine. He glanced at the saint and made a face like piety gave him hives. Fine. After he left, Sal sat at the bench and laughed. Not hysteria, release. The kind that scrubs you clean. He picked up a scrap of leather for the sheer pleasure of hearing it sigh. The thimble on his finger winked like a small moon. The weeks became seasons. Customers came back not cause of the elves, most never knew, but cause when they put on Romano shoes, they felt like they stood a half-inch higher in their own life. Husbands got promotions. Wives forgave their husbands for behaving like husbands. Kids danced at confirmations. Somewhere in all that, Carmella started a soup on Fridays that people swore cured bad luck. Oleg sent cousins with accents that could chop wood to buy boots. The old men outside the club debated whether St. Anthony or Carmella had more pull, and decided not to anger either. Sometimes, late when the night held its breath, and even the rats walked soft, Sal would lay a tiny plate on the bench. A little honey, a little bread. For the heat bills, he'd say to no one. The plate was always empty by morning, and the thimble was always where he left it, warm as a pocket. One autumn, a girl of about 12 came in with a handful of change and a pair of her father's boots worn down to the thought of a sole, eyes like Carmella's when they were young. "He says he'll fix 'em himself," she whispered. "He's wrong." Sal took the boots, felt the weight of pride and poverty sharing a laugh. "Come back Wednesday," he said, "and bring your father. Let him pretend he helped." He worked those boots like a prayer. Put the thimble on. The groove found him. When the man came back, hat in hand, jaw set for the embarrassment, Sal shook it off. "Do me a favor," he said. "When they get old again, you bring 'em here before they start crying, capiche?" The man nodded like he wanted to hug the whole shop. His daughter fingered the St. Anthony statue, kissed her palm, and whispered something that felt like a blessing landing. There was one more turn in the road because stories without one last corner ain't stories. They're pamphlets. A slick operator from uptown opened a boutique 2 blocks over. Chrome shelves, shoes that looked like weapons. A name that sounded French for overpriced. He poached 3 of Sal's customers in a week and had the audacity to tell the paper he was elevating the neighborhood. Carmella read the article, rolled her eyes so hard the basil leaned away. "Elevate this," she muttered. Sal shrugged. "Let him. The neighborhood will elevate him right into a therapist." But sales dipped. Not bad. Enough to scare the dust. He sat late one night, the kind of late that makes a man count his ghosts. He put the thimble on. It was cool, unusual. The air in the shop shifted like someone turned their head on the other side of a wall and listened. "Hey," he said softly into the quiet that had become a friend. "You too? If you still look in on us, I got a thing. One more lesson. Not the whole job. I ain't asking for a miracle. Just a nudge." The lamp guttered. The basil leaves trembled. At the edge of the mirror behind the register, 2 smudges appeared. Not reflections, not shadows, like fingerprints on silver, tiny and sure. He didn't look straight at 'em. You look straight at certain kinds of grace, and they bolt. He set his thread. He worked. By dawn, the pair on the bench were the best of his life. Not clean like magic, but alive like a song the singer believes. He put 'em in the window with the tag Carmella lettered herself. "Made here." The boutique went quiet inside a month. Turns out chrome don't hug your foot the way history does. The owner left with a shrug and a tax write-off. Probably called it market research. The block exhaled. Rizzo sent a fruit basket from his mother. Carmella ate everything in it that had a pit. Years slipped. People got married in Romano shoes. People got buried in them. Both events got tears. Both got speeches. Both got dinners where somebody told a story and somebody else said, "That's not how it happened," and nobody cared because the cake was moist. The shop never looked rich. It looked honest, which is harder to fake and worth more in the end. Once a year, on the first Sunday of Advent, Carmella laid out a tiny outfit on the bench, a token suit, a peppercorn button that took 2 fingers to fasten, a belt thin as a promise. She'd smile, shake her head, tuck it all away by midnight. "They know we remember," she'd say. "That's enough." Sal kept the thimble in a little velvet pouch behind the saint. On the day his hands got too shaky to thread without cursing the alphabet, he called his apprentice in, a quiet kid who listened to leather and not to TikTok. He put the thimble on the counter. The kid reached for it like it was a holy card. "Listen," Sal said, voice gone soft the way strong voices do when they reach something worth saying. "This ain't magic. It's a reminder. People helped us. You help people. That's the whole song. If one night when you're scared and the bills make you small and the world makes you stupid, you feel the bench warm, you say, thank you, and you work. You don't ask for the whole loaf. You ask for company. Capiche? The kid nodded like somebody had explained to him why hearts beat. Carmella ran the register into her 80s with the precision of a Swiss watch and the language of a dock worker with a PhD. When she went, the basil plant on the sill drooped for a week and then perked back up as if to say she'd only stepped into the kitchen to get more salt. Sal followed her one morning the way the tide follows the moon. No drama, no fight, just obedience to a law older than debts. The parish was full. Rizzo cried in the back, tried to hide it, failed. Oleg stood by the door like a cathedral that learned to walk. The apprentice closed the shop for 3 days, and then reopened with the sign polished to a shine that made the old men nod like they'd been waiting for someone to respect the wood. If you walk Mulberry now, past the laundromat that still isn't a laundromat, past the social club where the old men sit like opinions with shoes, you'll see Romano's. The bell still coughs. The saint still leans. On the counter sits a thimble in a velvet pouch, and if you're the kind who's earned it, meaning you pay your bill, you tip what you can, you say please and mean it, the kid will let you touch it. It'll be warm. Don't make a face. Just nod, like you and someone you can't see just finalized a deal that's been waiting its whole life to be signed. And sometimes, if you're walking late, and the window's fogged from the inside, and you swear you hear a dirty little tune that don't belong to radio or memory, don't bang on the glass and ask for autographs. Keep walking. Let the night do its shift. We ain't the only ones who got to eat. The moral? Simple enough to fit on a tag, hard enough to spend a life learning. You don't own the miracles, kid. You honor 'em. You don't hoard the help. You pass it on. Dress your gratitude, feed your block, keep your stitch straight, and when the rent comes due, money or soul, you pay like a grown-up. And if naked elves ever break into your shop to make shoes, put some pants on 'em, say grazie, and don't you dare tell the boutique on the corner. That joint wouldn't know what to do with Grace if it came with a manual and a money-back guarantee. Now, go hit that subscribe on Bambi's joint and ring the bell like St. Anthony himself owes you a favor. In the pizza-verse, we don't just tell fairy tales. We make 'em walk down Mulberry in a pair of Romanos, double-stitched and built to last. Capisce? Thanks for watching.